Hi, I'm Dawn and this is where Shabby meets Bling. Tonight I will be repurposing a thrifted item and a clearance sale item, all for Christmas in July. You are watching Christmas Palooza. I would like to thank our host, Annie from Crafting with Annie Jones. You're going to find the link to her channel and this playlist in the description box below. You may remember this after Christmas shopping trip. Well, it's paramount to my project today because that guy right there, that guy that I didn't buy at the time of the 90% off, I bought later. Here he is. Here he is. Well, the thing is, I just bought him. I just bought him probably 2 months ago, and he was still on the 90% off clearance rack way in the back of the store this time, but he had no hat. He had no lid. He's a cookie jar. Well, there was no price on him, and the manager happened to be standing there when I asked somebody about him, and they gave him to me for $2. But now I need to make a lid, and I have no idea what the original lid looked like, and I do not have any lid that totally fits him in my stash of lids, so I am going to wing it. This is the closest lid I could find, and I figured if I put some kind of something around the inside of it to hold it in place, it would work. I have this rubber tubing, and this stuff is usually used in attaching water lines to refrigerators and dishwashers and whatever, and if I can get it so that it sits in here nicely, then the lid won't fall off and it'll sit there just like so. So now I need to attach that rubber hosing. So I cut a piece of the rubber tubing, and then I take a piece of wire and I place a piece of wire inside my rubber tubing to hold the shape. Then I use 3-in-1 glue to glue it. Then I clamp it together with my tiny little clamps. Check it to make sure it fits inside my little cookie jar, and then we wait to let it dry. Once my circle has dried, I use 3-in-1 glue again to glue it to that glass lid, to the top of the glass lid where the little handle is. As it's drying, I make sure that it is centered and that it fits appropriately in the top of my little nutcracker. Now I need to start building his hat, and it needs a little bit of weight to it, so I'm going to use this little wood pedestal to go right on top of it. So the lid goes upside down. My pedestal doesn't quite fit, so I'm taking some sanding paper, a sanding block actually, and I'm just gonna whittle down a little bit of that little tiny edge so I can fit it inside the top of that lid. Once I've assured myself that that little wood pedestal is gonna fit into the top of that lid, I am gonna cover everything, as well as the little pedestal, with a coat of black chalk paint before I glue the two pieces together. More 3-in-1 glue and some more clamps, and these two pieces will become one. Now the top part of his hat. I need to cut a wedge. A wedge that at the base is going to be the same size in diameter is that wood disc, that wood plaque. Once I get through the cone, I check to see if it is the right size, and it is not, so I need to slowly just keep bit by bit, blades width by blades width, taking parts off until it is the exact size that I need. I now have the bottom part of his hat the way I want it, but the top I want to have an angle, a little bit of a wedge shape, kind of tilted back the way a nutcracker hat should look. So I am just cutting an angle, and I will keep doing this until I get the angle I want. I have achieved the shape that I'm after, and I have added a little piece of wire, like a little handle, on the bottom of my wedge so that I can hold it easily while I paint. And I have busted out my flat black house paint yet again. I am prepping this thing because I don't want it to look like styrofoam. We need it to look as smooth and shiny and gorgeous as the ceramic nutcracker that he's going to top. So keep in mind, this is coat 1. Coat 1 will keep track. I'm also painting the top of the little wood plaque at this point. Now that my first coat of black paint is dry, I'm busting out the podge to coat the styrofoam part of his hat. This is the gloss Mod Podge, and I'm gonna cover the entire thing in a nice thick coat. This is exactly the same method I used when I created Scully's head, and I will leave the link for that video in the description box for you so you can check that one out. But I'm getting a nice thick coat on this, and we'll let it dry. My Mod Podge is dry, and you can see how good it's looking. We're going to give it a little bit of a sanding all over the top and the sides, just to kind of smooth it out. Once again, we're looking for a nice, clean, smooth finish. Then we're going to go for paint coat number 2. Then coat 2 of the Mod Podge, a second thorough sanding, the third and final coat of my black paint, followed by the third coat of Mod Podge, and one last sanding. Now it's time to join our two pieces together to form his hat for real. I remove the wire handle and I kind of line things up the way I want them. And then I am going to make sure that my bottom is super smooth, because if it's not going to sit flat on that wood pedestal. So I'm going to give it another sanding, the bottom this time, because it needs to sit on there nicely. Once the pieces sit smoothly together, it's time to glue. I am going to run a bead of my 3-in-1 glue around the perimeter of the bottom of the wedge, and then on the inside I am going to add some hot glue. And I have my hot glue gun set at a low temp because I do not want to melt my styrofoam, and at a high temperature it would melt styrofoam. So I'm just adding a little dollop in the middle, and I'm working quickly to make sure that I get it in place before my hot glue dries. I touch up the entire thing with my black paint, and I come back and hit the whole thing one last time with my gloss Mod Podge. Once my Mod Podge is dry, I come in with some decorative trim. Now this trim I bought quite a few years ago for Halloween costumes, and I don't remember where I got it. All I know is I love it, and I thought it was perfect, absolutely perfect for the hat of a nutcracker. So I am going to wrap this all the way around the bottom. Actually, it's going to hug that little pedestal part and give it a convex shape. It's going to bulge out a little bit, so it's going to add some dimension. Excuse me, blue. I'm going to use 3-in-1 glue to glue it in place. And after I get this trim secure, I'm going to add another layer of trim. I'm going to use this pretty little trim that I got on clearance from Hobby Lobby, and I am 3-in-1 gluing this in place as well, right below that first piece of trim. And then I'm adding a third piece of trim at the top. All 3 trims are different. This one I also picked up on clearance at Hobby Lobby. Here she is with her trim in place, and all of it is dry. And now I'm hitting the trim, all of the trim, with the gloss Mod Podge. Once again, this has to be a hard substance, and it has to be shiny so that it matches and looks like it's not out of place with the nutcracker. His hat needs a little more than just trim. So I am going to take one of these foam vase fillers from the Dollar Tree, and I am gonna add it to the top of his hat, the little star. Then I'm going to take one of the little balls, the little styrofoam ball vase fillers. I'm going to cut it in half, and it's going to get added, one to one side of his little hat and one to the other. Now, this should be flanking a brim. So I need to make a brim. I have this piece of
styrofoam, this decorative styrofoam that is high density foam, and it is pliable. And this is available on Etsy. I'll leave the link in the description box, and that is going to become our brim. I have used 3-in-1 glue to add pins, just little sewing pins, into each of these items so they will stick easier into that styrofoam hat. Before gluing these components onto the hat, I am painting the brim black, and I am painting the other elements metallic gold. Now, I came across these feathers in the clearance section at the Hobby Lobby, and they were $1.24 each. And I'm going to definitely be using the red. I don't know about the blue. I think it might be a little too bright, but I'm going to give it a try. And those plumes are going to be coming out the top of his little hat. Before it's all said and done, I'm going to cover the entire hat, not the plumes, in the dishwasher safe Mod Podge. So that way you can wash his little hat. The little feathers are going to be removable. I think my nutcracker is going to be a little too grand just to sit on the counter. So I'm going to create a little pedestal, a little platform for him. And I am going to be painting this round pedestal, which came from the Hobby Lobby, the one and only Hobby Lobby. And I am going to be painting it pool. This is a Waverly chalk paint, and I'm going to paint the top and the bottom in this beautiful pool color, which is kind of a softer version of our Nutcracker's jacket, so that the bottom of our pedestal does not either stick or slide off of whatever surface we're going to set it on. I am adding these little clear bumpers onto the bottom of the pedestal. Now, these things are sticky, but they're not sticky enough. They will bump off. Ha! No pun intended. Clear bumpers. So I'm adding a little bit of 3-in-1 glue, and I'm going to add 6 in total on the bottom, evenly spaced. Almost as much as I love a good pedestal, I love a good pattern. The little front part of his jackets with his buttons kind of look like a harlequin on its side. So I am going to create kind of a cross between a harlequin and an argyle pattern on the top of the little pedestal. I'm using 2 widths of the blue painter's tape, and I am measuring them to make sure that I've got it equal distance all the way up and down the pedestal. And I will be adding a thick piece and then a thin piece on either side, and then another thick piece and then another thin piece on either side. I seal my painter's tape with that blue pool Waverly chalk paint, and once that's dry, I come back and start adding my other colors. I am going to be alternating between white, the white chalk paint, and that really gorgeous metallic gold. Once that coat is dry, that gold and that white, I pull my tape, and then I come back in with the 2 different sizes of blue tape again and alternate the sizes, and I connect my blue stripes at an angle. I measure these as well to make sure they are evenly spaced. This is going to create our design. This time I alternate my paint blue, white, blue, gold, blue, white. Now that the paint is dry, we can pull the tape and reveal our pattern. It's a stylized harlequin or kind of an argyle pattern. Now there are some raised edges, so I will take a very, very fine sanding block, a 60, I'll use a 60, and lightly hit those edges down. Then I will come back and touch up any edges that are not nice and straight. I will add some trim and some decorative painting to the bottom, and then Mod Podge the entire thing. All nutcrackers need to be holding a staff, so I'm going to be using an old chopstick that's already been kind of hacked off at the top. And this piece, this little finial piece, is from a different Nutcracker video. I'll leave the link in the description box below. I'll also be using a couple of these woodpile little wood pieces to create a brand new staff. I'm going to use 3-in-1 glue to glue all the components together, and then I will come back. I will paint the entire thing black and highlight certain areas with my metallic gold. This is the beautiful ribbon that I will be accenting his fabulous little staff with. Both were on clearance at Hobby Lobby. I have gotten so much beautiful ribbon on clearance at Hobby Lobby. One last little item, I picked this cute little rotating sign up at Goodwill for a song, $2.49, and it was a blue tag sale, so I got it for $1.25. And it is a little bit warped and a little bit cracked and a little bit bumpy because it is MDF, but I'm going to give it new life. I am going to take some designs, some paper that I created on Canva, and on one side it's gonna say Cookie Guard Off Duty, and on the other side, when you rotate it, it's gonna say Cookie Guard On Duty. So with a little paint, a little Mod Podge, we are gonna change this sign.
Our Nutcracker is now a completed Nutcracker, hat and all. Our sign is complete as well. Let's take a look.
Here's our completed sign, complete with the little Harlequin paper that I created. And I aged it, and as you flip it over, you can see the other side. It's just gonna look so sweet standing next to our Nutcracker. And here's that regal little base for my Nutcracker. You can see the dimensional paint, which was a metallic gold, in the center section around the bottom. And I also added a red trim, sewing trim, and a black sewing trim. And all of this had a coat of Mod Podge. I am absolutely thrilled with the pattern I created. To me, it looks like I walked into an old-time department store and looked down at the floor. That was the goal, to create a floor for my lovely little Nutcracker. And here's his hat. And you can see how all the components, once put together, look like it is really a hat. You would never know that it was styrofoam, a glass lid, a wood pedestal, and some trim, and some beautiful plumy feathers. Those feathers are phenomenal. You can see I added a black as well with the red, and I did not use the blue, but it was covered, all of it, in the dishwasher Mod Podge, and you can remove the feathers. There's just a little hole there, so you can take them out for cleaning. So our Nutcracker is no longer defective, he has regained his lid, and he is legitimately usable. There's his little staff, the chopstick, the old finial, and a couple of little wood beads, all glued together and painted up lovely, with some beautiful ribbon to enhance his little staff. Let's put our Nutcracker to work. We're gonna fill him with cookies, and he is going to guard them all day or until he's off duty. I have paired him with some of my vintage dishware as well as some of my enamelware, and he just blends so nicely. You'll notice I also added some decorative trim around the top of his sleeve, just to kind of bring that black from his hat all the way down to his shoes and to the base. I'm very excited to use him this year because I will. I definitely will. Very happy that my defective little Nutcracker is now complete and beautiful and ready to use. Once again, I would like to thank our host, Annie, from Crafting with Indie Annie Jones. You're going to find the link to her channel and this playlist in the description box below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like, share it with your family, your friends, anyone that loves Christmas, DIY, and decor. You can follow me on Instagram, and don't forget to check out my shop on Etsy. Ring the bell for notifications to get my newest videos, and leave a comment. I absolutely love hearing from you. The best ways to support my channel is to subscribe, so don't forget to subscribe. But for now, this is Dawn with Shabby Meets Bling. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.